Lakman, ship Lakman. Thank you. Ship Lakman. Thank you. Manay Ara, salamat. Salamat, Manay Ara. Narinig mo yun. Mike, good evening, Mike. Narinig niyo yun? Mike, thank you. Kumain na kayo. Lakman, kumain ka na, Titan. Kumain na si Titan. Good evening, Mike. Ayan. Wait lang ha at mag-ano ako. Nasa kaligtang bumagsak sa lupan, si Chef Clackman. Anong ulam mo? Anong ulam mo? Anong ulam ni Chef Clackman? Manay Ara, wait lang, baba kayo ba? Ano lang, itlog. Prito? Prinito mo, nilaga mo. Nilaga mo, prinito mo. Hubog si Daniel. Hubog si Daniel. Kasi hubog naman si Daniel.
Tinubigan mo ang body. Tinubigan mo.
Itlog. Narinig mo, Manay Ara? May shooting dito, Manay Ara. Manay Ara, may shooting dito. Si Catherine Bernardo tapos si Daniel Padilla. Mysterious eh. Shooting. May shooting, Manay. Ito to. Grabe pa. Roy lang ha. Ibaba ko yung bahay mo, Clackman. Mag-upload ka ng video, Clackman. Narinig mo yun. Narinig mo yung Manay. O, dagdagan mo pa. Dagdagan mo pa na mga maraming video. Kasi isa lang yung video mo. Isa lang yung video mo. Dagdagan mo pa ng marami, ha? Gusto ko maraming video. Wait lang natin. Come on out in space. Come on out and almost play. Salamat sa 3 hours. Salamat, Manay. May Skype na dito. May Skype na. Bumabagal yung ano ko. Manay Ara, salamat. Wait lang, nabaka yung laro. Narinig mo, Manay? May shooting dito, Manay. May shooting. Okay. Sabi ng kapit-kapit. Leia, thank you, Leia. Hindi, din niya sinabi. Hindi, away mag-ano lang yun, away mag-asawa. Leia, thank you. Wait lang, ito ba kasi Leia? Leia, salamat. Ano kayong bahala? Siya kasi. Marites si Klakman Marites. Marites to si Klakman. Filipino Leia in Singapore. Thank you. Wait lang ha. Filipino Leia in Singapore. Filipina.
Pero ito tabig di sa luwas. Ubusan na.
Ayan, nag-end ka na kanina. Oo, kasi ano na, alas 12 na. Oh, salamat, Leia.
Isa na doon ko.
Salamat, Leia.
Isa na doon ako niya.
Oh, thank you sa pagtambay kanina.
Makahong mo na kita? Oo, dito na.
Thank you sa support. Naka-ano na ako ng watch hours kanina. Naka 39. 39 watch hours yata eh. Chismosa. Chismosa ka.
Ay lang, mag-iisip ka, Bigyo. Madam Kalayo.
Chismosa.
Bigyo, ikaw na.
Leia, thank you. Oo. Sige lang.
Bigyo, daw siya, tawag ito ka mo. Kurang yung mas mababa. Ha? Ano mo ito naman na, no? Deso?
Chris!
Ilago kayo sa ibabaw lang.
Nang ano? May na-imagine ako. Ala, nag-imagine na si AJ. Nag-imagine na si AJ. Mamaya na. Okay, Leia. Video ako.
Ilag ko na yun eh.
Kenji Pogi, thank you. Ship.
Kunwari,
Ken
kay kong
Pogi.
kuha. Ano na nga nasungit na?
Pwede talaga?
Pwede.
Puro to niya yun.
Ano? Ikaw ka dito.
Diyan mo kayo din.
Sige, ikaw pa nga. Ikaw daw ang kauna niya.
Talaga ba?
Yung nga ni,
Ungod niya si Jim, may naya mag-araw si Jim.
tayo yung pinisay mo na eh.
Simatan.
Ano ba yun mga kaano?
Hoy, clock man. Hindi naman ganun.
Pwede gaan.
Sige lang. Kaya mo yan. Kauna ko, bahaw. Kauna bahaw. Tikim-tikim lang kita. Mga naang kita sing kakaon. Oo.
Pwede yung kaano.
Sige lang, kauna ako. Okay.
Ang pangan ka ay kapag.
Mga naang kita kakaon.
Kaya?
Sige lang. Ah. Ah. May tikim-tikim. Tikim-tikim. Ayaw ko na mag-live. Ulam ka. Saan naman balat?
Ano? Oo. Ano gusto sa ng pagyan dito?
Ano ito na rin? Kataon. Tulihan ko.
birthday yan.
Joke lang.
Ano yan?
Ikaw din lang. Magkaon pa natin.
Ano ka
Sabihin mo
ba?
ito magkaon.
Ano? Ano nga ako sa bahay?
Yung puro tubad.
Nakadamo na naman si Jamil. Nakapirang 1,000 ka na yan.
Ano man lang.
1,000. 1,000 si Jamil. Sarap pala na. Team Cobra drink. Hindi, si Raul ka manihara. Laki nga yung na-infect. Kakain ng prito. Kasi yung ulam doon puro prito. Puro prito man na yung ulam. Mamantika. Tinatago ko nga. Ayan na yung pakita. Laki. Na-infect. Tapos sinawakawakan ko pa. Pinawakawakan ko pa. Na-infect ko. Kumain ka man naman ay? Kumain ka na. Ay ka naman ay, dinner na ako, 7 mag alas 8 na. No!
Siles. May katidro. Marami man yun eh. Marami naman talapis. Meron kong laman. Steak. Pulutan o. Budol fight.
Pwede man ba ka?
Aray na, argay ko Justin. So, alam mo sa banggi. Pulutan o ng pulutan. Hindi mo na nakaubos ng luto ni. Nagaya ni. Gutom pa nang nagsayot. Magkakabili.
Ito pa kampang panin yan. Kampang panin
Saan
yan.
nga ni Ora?
Stay niya to dito?
Bakit? Ang araw ka sa matang nakambitan.
Pero sad parang nasabi niya parang nagtutulog siya dito.
Ay, minsan. Nakatulog siya doon. Pwede mo nagtulog doon.
Sa mismong katedral ka mo?
Ay, sa may radio station mo pwede. Second floor. So, tapat na ko.
May nag-away sa Bicol. Ano sinasabi Clockman din? Chismosa si si Clockman. Nakikinig siya kanina si Clockman. Dinner! Lunch gabi na. Pag gabi, lunch dinner yon. Pag hapon, alas 12, lunch yun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Kapa man. Tusubos ako.
Dinner na, dinner. Kasi gabi na. Dinner. Pag gabi, dinner yon.
Tay, may laog na kayan. Plastic na din. Plastic na dakula.
Sino ba naka-live ngayon?
Takot mo pa naman ano, ni microwavable pala ng hinayog.
Ha?
Microwavable.
Arin.
Ini.
Saan ba? Ayan.
Alam, pasakitan kong buhay ko pa din na. Direkta akong ko.
Kumain ka na. Kumain ka na. Kumain na ako eh. Oh, laki na ng tiyan ko. Kumain na ako.
Tara.
Siyempre yan ka.
Laki ng pimples ko, no? Parang pigsa yan. Pigsa na yata ito. Hindi. Ang laki-laki. Egg. Thank you. Sige, tingin ko yung tumigil no, tumigil. Tumigil yung away nila. Ay, Leia, thank you, Leia. Salamat, Leia. Ang oras na ba? Mag-alas na siya. Yun mo na lang. Thank you, Clockman. Water gun. Republic.
The story begins with a priest known as the highest priest, who notices a pot of water turning red, signaling that the time for the next emperor of the gods has arrived. He summons Lord Havoc, the god of the sea and the candidate to become the emperor of gods. Lord Havoc is busy posing for a painter who is creating a portrait of him. During their meeting, the priest informs him that Havoc must perform a ritual to be chosen as the emperor. He must go to the world of humans and retrieve 3 sacred stones. The priest provides him with a map and also mentions the gods of land and sky, from whom he would gather the stones. Havoc brings his servant, Namsuri, with him, as he has experience of living in the human world before. In the human world, we see a lady, Yin Soe, in her clinic attending to a patient named Mr. Ma. She is a psychiatrist who runs a medical health clinic. While Soe is listening to him, Mr. Ma becomes angry and spills coffee on her gown. He thinks that Soe doesn't believe him about the end of the world, and his urgency to meet Obama to save the world. Meanwhile, Soe's assistant, Sang-yu, arrives and comforts the patient. He knows how to handle this delusional patient and escorts him away. Soa then packs her gown in a bag and heads to a place near the lake. There, she retrieves her buried diamond ring and begins to admire it. While sitting on a bench, when she is gazing at the sky, Havoc falls from above and lands on her. It causes her to lose consciousness. Finding himself naked, Havoc grabs Soe's gown from her bag and puts it on. He then taps her forehead to wake her before leaving her. Upon awakening, Soe discovers her gown and diamond ring missing from her bag, and cries out loudly, accusing someone of theft. Hearing her cries, Havoc becomes angered at being labeled a thief. But Namsuri arrives at the scene wearing Havoc's clothes. Havoc asks him to exchange dresses. Afterward, they attempted to find the map provided by the highest priest, but they couldn't find it anywhere. Additionally, Havoc finds that his powers are ineffective in the human world. Without any direction or means to return to their world, they're left stranded. Havoc tries to reawaken his powers, but fails. Meanwhile, Soe arrives at the scene. Havoc, wanting to repay her kindness, asks what she desires. Soe requests money, but Havoc doesn't even know what money is. He explains that he is the god of water, and is destined to become the emperor of gods. Soe perceives him as another patient with grandiose delusions. When she tries to leave, ignoring him, Havoc intervenes and takes hold of her hand. At that moment, Sang-yu arrives and rescues Soe. Havoc continues, claiming that she is his servant and must obey him. Sang-yu hands him a card for their clinic and leaves with Soe. The following day, Soe goes to the bank to request an extension on her loan. However, since she has been consistently late with her interest payments, the banker informs her that they can only extend her loan at a higher interest rate. Curiously, the banker is offering another person, Mr. Shin, a very low interest rate. Soe confronts the banker about this discrepancy. Mr. Shin intervenes, urging the banker to assist Soe first. Meanwhile, Havoc and Namsuri arrive at a location where the divine gate is situated in the human world. Coincidentally, Soe also comes there as the gate is located on her land. Although she sees it merely as a pile of stones, desperate to resolve her financial issues, she is considering selling that land. Havoc attempts to impress her and make her his servant by showing off his charismatic personality. But Soe remains indifferent. She accidentally hits Namsuri with her car. So, she is forced to take both of them with her. While driving through the forest, the car runs out of gas. Namsuri goes to fetch some fuel for the car. As Soe and Havoc walk in the woods, a boar starts to follow them. They hide in the trunk of the car until Namsuri returns. Later that night, annoyed with both of them, Soe decides to leave them behind and go home. Havoc, once again, tries to impress her, and to do this, he kisses her. But still, it doesn't change the mind of Soe, so she leaves them behind without saying anything. In the Divine's realm, the highest priest uses his water pot to create an image of Soe. He predicts that this woman will die soon, even before Havoc returns and ascends to his throne. In the human world, Havoc and Namsuri watch a skateboarding contest. Namsuri suggests that Havoc enter the competition to earn money for food. Havoc takes it as a challenge and agrees to it. He quickly learns all the skateboarding tricks by observing them. He then displays his skateboarding skills like he has been doing this since his childhood. Meanwhile, Soe arrives and is amazed by Havoc's abilities. However, the event organizer refuses to award the prize money, alleging that Havoc seems to be a professional skateboarder who is ineligible for the competition. On the other hand, Havoc goes behind Soe while she is running from him. She dodges him and succeeds in hiding from him. While sitting near a lake, she remembers a memory of her being drowned in the water. The following day, Havoc and Namsuri go to Soe's mental clinic by following the address on her business card. Upon arrival, they witness Soe assisting an elderly man to cross the road. Mr. Shin is also present in his car at the signal, observing her actions and appearing impressed. Havoc once again demands Soe to obey him as a servant because he is a god. However, Soe pulls Namsuri aside and advises him to seek proper mental health care for his master, and bring him back home instead of wandering the streets. Namsuri explains they have nowhere to go and no food to eat. Despite this, Soe is stressed by their presence and instructs them to seek help from a community center, also requesting them not to follow her again. In response, they both depart from her, saying that they will not come after her again. While in the park, Havoc senses that someone is following them. It turns out to be Jajalan, a voracious deity from the world of gods. Jajalan kisses Havoc to confirm that his powers have vanished, then taunts him and flees. Later, while Havoc and Namsuri are on the train, Havoc notices a video on the phone of a girl nearby. In the video, he sees Lady Mora from the world of gods and is surprised. He follows the girl to learn more, but unknowingly exits the train, leaving Namsuri behind. As a result, they become separated. There, Havoc encounters Mr. Ma, who has escaped from Soe's mental care hospital on the opposite side. Mr. Ma recognizes Havoc, and they both head to the bank of the lake, bringing plenty of food with them. Meanwhile, Sangyu calls Soe and informs her that Mr. Ma has escaped from their hospital, and posted a picture claiming to have met a god. When Soe sees the picture, it turns out to be Havoc with him. She rushes to the bank of the lake, where they are seated. Initially, she sits nearby, hiding from them to overhear their conversation. Mr. Ma tells Havoc that he failed to contact Obama, who he believes is the only person capable of saving the world. Havoc counters, stating that Obama cannot save the world, and that Mr. Ma is mistaken as no one has appointed him for this task from the world of gods. Disheartened by Havoc's response, Mr. Ma becomes very dejected, as Havoc is his last hope for understanding his mission in life. Feeling unheard, he walks towards the water, intending to end his life. Then, Soe arrives there and attempts to stop Mr. Ma, but he refuses to listen. Soe herself is traumatized by the sight of the water, recalling a painful memory from her past. She remembers standing on a bridge, calling out for her father, but receiving no response. Feeling abandoned, she jumped into the water, crying for help, but no one came to her aid. Eventually, she managed to save herself and emerged from the river. Havoc stands there observing the scene, as Mr. Ma jumps into the water. Soe attempts to overcome her fear of water and jumps in after him, but Havoc stops her from doing this, and jumps in himself to save Mr. Ma. After rescuing Mr. Ma from the water, Soe expresses her gratitude by hugging Havoc. The next morning, when Soe wakes up, her ears are plugged. She has been hearing voices coming from objects like plants and flowers. It seems as though they are criticizing her for not aiding people in need, such as Havoc and Namsuri. Her sense of guilt is urging her to go and help Havoc, so she returns to Havoc and offers her assistance if needed, though she still doesn't believe that he is a god. At night, Soe attends her university reunion, where she encounters Mr. Shin, who again appears impressed by her. Among the attendees is an old classmate of Soe's named Shin Jaya, who comes across as a bully. Shin Jaya teases Soe using a nickname from their school days, and then proceeds to discuss Soe's father, who used to take in orphans from the streets and care for them in his home. He eventually left for charity work in another country but never returned, leading Shin Jaya to claim that he sacrificed his family for the greater good, which offends Soe. She begins to walk away, stopping herself from striking Shin Jaya. However, Shin Jaya follows her and tears her dress. Soe gets angry again but controls herself. She calls Jaya an attention seeker and advises her to step away from the world of social media. Outside, Shin Jaya continues to follow Soe, but Havoc intervenes and saves Soe from her. He gives his coat to Soe to wear, and takes her away in a taxi. As they walk on a trail, Havoc shares more about his world with Soe. They then sit in front of the large screen to watch the commercial featuring Mura again. When Mura appears once more in the commercial, Soe tells Havoc that she is an actress named Hayare here. In the morning, Soe takes Havoc to the hotel where Mura is present. However, Mura refuses to recognize him, and even slaps him. Soe intervenes and reprimands Mura for her behavior before taking Havoc away. After they leave, Mura calls another god named Birium, and informs him that Havoc is in the human world, signaling that the time to select the Emperor has arrived. They both have decided not to give their sacred stones to Havoc for some hidden reason. Meanwhile, Soe takes Havoc to her friend Yomi, a better psychiatrist than her. After meeting her friend, Havoc is mad at Soe and says that she doesn't believe him, so he decides to leave Soe alone and do his work without her. However, as Soe comes to the stairs of the building, a man attacks her from behind and takes her to the roof, attempting to throw her off the building. Soe struggles and defends herself, while Namsuri witnesses the scene from below and calls Havoc to
Leia,
inform
thank
him.
you.
Initially confused by Namsuri's message, Havoc realizes the situation when he sees Soe across the glass window. She is falling down and crying for help. Havoc is so stunned by this scene that his phone drops from his hand. He rushes to her aid, breaking through the glass window, and then jumps from the building to save her. He has strong feelings for Soe that made him jump after her. Suddenly, a circle of water forms around him as his powers return. As they fall, he catches Soe and lands safely on the ground. Soe is stunned and gazes at him in amazement, as Havoc reveals that he has spoken the truth about being a god. At night, Soe takes Namsuri and Havoc to her home, where they begin to live together. Over time, Soe starts to believe that Havoc is indeed a god. The next day, while Namsuri and Havoc are conversing, Mura overhears them and learns that Havoc has lost his powers. Realizing this, when Havoc approaches Mura to retrieve the sacred stones, she refuses, stating that she cannot allow a powerless god to become her king. Havoc tries to persuade Mura, assuring her that his loss of power is only temporary and that he will regain it soon. However, Mura remains steadfast in her decision. Meanwhile, Mr. Shin expresses interest in Soe's land for building a resort, and he purchases it from her at 7 times its value. Delighted with the deal, Soe shares the news with Sang-yu and goes to celebrate with him. Meanwhile, Havoc begins learning the Korean language, because Mura has set a condition for him to report all negative comments on her profile in exchange for the sacred stones. However, this condition is merely an excuse to get rid of Havoc temporarily. That night, Soe returns home late, and Havoc waits for her outside on the street. Upon her arrival, he demonstrates that he has learned to read and write Korean. He writes both words, Yun Soa and Havoc, on the wall. The following day, Havoc feels stressed by Mura's tactics of withholding the stones, so he suggests going for a drive to relax. Soe agrees and takes Havoc and Namsuri in her car. They visit the beach, and later lie down in a calm and beautiful farm field. While there, Soe expresses her desire for a peaceful place akin to an ocean with warm waters where she can swim alone. Also, Havoc comes there in her imagination, supporting her and ensuring she doesn't feel lonely. While lying in the farm fields, Havoc says sorry to Soe, but she can't understand why he is saying sorry to her. Actually, Havoc has seen a man failing the brakes of Soe's car, but he is not going to tell Soe this, because he wants to endanger her life and recover his powers while saving her. When they are going back, Havoc suddenly arrives in the driver's seat of the car, and says that he will drive this time. He starts driving fast and fast, but the brakes are not working. Soe is very scared at the moment. Havoc takes the car into an underpass, breaking the stop signs, but 2 oil trucks are on the other side of the tunnel. They don't have any other way except to jump from the moving car. Havoc opens the sunroof and goes on the vehicle's roof. He gives his hand to Soe and pulls her out of it. Meanwhile, Namsuri is keeping the steering. Namsuri and Havoc are immortals, so they will not die. But Soe is mortal, so their main motto is to save her. At that very moment, while jumping from the car, Havoc's powers return, and he forms a water circle around Soe and himself. In this way, they are saved from crashing with the car into an oil truck. Namsuri crashes the car with trucks, and returns back with all the soot on his face and clothes. Meanwhile, Havoc and Soe are saved, and Havoc has carried Soe in his hands. After that, Havoc tells them he has seen the man who failed the brakes. They report that man, and police arrest him. In the investigations, that man tells his story to the police. He crashed his car accidentally into the car of Soe a few days back, and he had to pay for the damage, but this affected his life financially, so he went to kill Soe in his rage. He threw her from the building, but she remained unharmed. He believes that Soe is not human and that the man with him, Havoc, is not human. He has tried many times to harm them, but they always come back safe. At night, Havoc makes delicious food for the 3 of them, and they enjoy a candle dinner on the rooftop of Soe's house. The next morning, Havoc takes Namsuri and Soe with him to meet Lord Biriam, but Soe faints when she sees him. Actually, Biriam is her old university friend who gave her a diamond ring. She can't believe that he can be a god. Biriam also declines to give the sacred stone to Havoc. He says that as Havoc is powerless now, he doesn't deserve to be the king. He also sets a condition that he will give him the sacred stone if Mora gives him her sacred stone first. At this, Havoc carries the fainted Soe at his back and leaves. Havoc and Namsuri then go to Mora to take her sacred stone, but she again declines, saying that she will only give him the stone if Biriam gives him first. Actually, both are just trying to dodge Havoc and want to pass some time. The next day, when Soe emerges from her clinic, Biriam arrives and forcefully takes Soe with him in his car. Havoc observes this from behind and runs after the car, but Biriam is very fast. Biriam carries her to a bridge, where he gives her a fluid and asks her to somehow make Havoc drink it.
Maniara,
In return,
salamat.
he promises to make her the richest person in the world. However, Soe declines his offer and throws the fluid onto the ground. Meanwhile, Havoc and Namsuri arrive with Mora in her car. Havoc signals Mora to come towards him, but Biriam uses his powers to pull her back. He then uses his powers to start raining on Soe and breaks the bridge around her, creating a circle. He says that he wants to see if Havoc's powers can really return to save this girl or not. Biriam is about to make Soe fall into the river, but then Havoc realizes something. He asks Biriam and Mora if they have lost their sacred stones. Upon this, Biriam reverses the clouds and the circle around Soe. Biriam and Mora are surprised at how Havoc knows their stones are lost. Mora begins to blame Biriam, accusing him of losing the stones and saying it was his idea to shift the blame onto each other. Meanwhile, Soe appears to be in deep shock. She approaches, slaps Biriam, and takes Mora's car to leave the place. Biriam attempts to discuss the matter of the stones with Havoc, but he refuses, stating that they will discuss it tomorrow. Havoc is also depressed by Soe's condition. In the night, Soe goes to her mother's grave. She pours out her heart, expressing that she has no one to confide in and mourning her father's absence. After spending some time there, she returns home. Havoc is waiting for her in the street. He promises to protect her in every circumstance, stating that it is his duty as a god. When Soe is at her clinic the following day, Mr. Shin comes there. Soe still needs to sign the contract papers for her land, which she has sold to Mr. Shin. So, Mr. Shin himself comes there to get her signed documents, but Soe has lost the documents in Biriam's car, so she takes more time from Mr. Shin. After that, Soe's friend calls her and asks her to come to her place. She wants her to meet some priest who can understand her condition better. When Soe reaches there with Havoc and Namsuri, she goes inside alone. The priest starts telling her that she has has some evil powers in her house, and she has to get rid of them to turn her days. But then Havoc comes inside and sees that Jujalin has come there as a priest. Seeing him, Jujalin starts running from there. Havoc follows him, but Jujalin jumps from a tall building and vanishes, leaving ashes behind. After that, when Havoc, Soe, and Namsuri are going somewhere in the car, Havoc gives him the contract papers for her land, which she lost in Biriam's car, but the papers are torn into pieces. Havoc says that she can't sell that land because it is the property of God, and Havoc doesn't want this. Actually, the Divine Gate is on that land, and Havoc doesn't want anyone else to own that land. Soe becomes extremely angry at him for doing this. She gets out of the car and leaves. Havoc goes behind her to sympathize with her but fails. She calls Mr. Shin and asks him if she wants to meet him. So, she continues towards his place while walking across the road on the crosswalk. Meanwhile, a high-speed truck is coming her way. She has not seen it. Havoc calls her to step aside, but she doesn't listen. He runs towards her, but the truck is very fast. The truck reaches to her before him. He looks around anxiously upon arriving, but fails to spot Soe. His fear intensifies until he finally spots Biriam carrying Soe along the side of the road. Havoc goes to them and asks Biriam what he is doing there. Then Biriam says that he is free for the day and has followed both of them since the morning to see their romantic relationship. Soe is still in her previous shock. She goes from there without saying anything. She goes straight to Mr. Shin and gives him the torn contract pieces, binding them with tape. But Mr. Shin tells her that he will send a new contract tomorrow. Mr. Shin also offers her the opportunity to work with him in his garden to empty the clutter in her mind. Soe agrees to work there, and also shares her feelings with him there. And then, at night, Mr. Shin leaves her home in his car. In the morning, Mr. Shin again calls Soe and tells her the documents are ready. He invites her to sign the papers and have dinner. Soe is looking very happy and excited on his phone call. Meanwhile, Havoc sees her talking to someone on the phone with excitement. He asks who the guy is, but Soe becomes nervous and doesn't tell him. When Soe reaches her clinic, Sang-yu tells her that some people have come earlier. They found some poop of a rare species of Korean leopard, so they want to do research there. Also, they said not to sell that place until the research is complete. However, Soe remains steadfast in her decision to sell the land, so she approaches Mr. Shin and signs the necessary documents. Meanwhile, Havoc and Namsuri go to the land where the Divine Gate is located, accompanied by Mora. There, Havoc discovers a rock with blood stains. Gods, however, do not bleed, and the area is purified of human traces, meaning that no human remnants should be present. This raises suspicion about the stone. As they begin their return journey, they spot Mr. Shin and Soe emerging from a hotel after dinner. This sight visibly hurts Havoc. When Soe returns home, she doesn't find Havoc waiting for her in the street as usual. Concerned, she goes upstairs and asks Havoc why he isn't there. Havoc informs her that he will not be staying there anymore, and will soon return to his land of water. Next, a group of low deities is seen having a meal together. Biriam and Mora arrive and apprehend Jujalin, with Mora taking him to Havoc. Havoc questions Jujalin about the blood-stained stone, as he has lived for a long time and knows stories from ancient times. Jujalin suggests that if the blood is human and found near the divine door where no human traces should exist, it implies that he is present, although no one has ever seen him before. While Havoc and Mora discuss this mysterious figure, Mr. Shin appears, and tries to be friendly with Havoc, but Havoc doesn't respond to Mr. Shin's attempts. Meanwhile, Soe arrives to meet Mr. Shin. As they converse, Havoc approaches Mr. Shin, and whispers in his ear that he has caught him. Upon hearing this, the color drains from Mr. Shin's face immediately. Havoc then shows the human blood-stained stone to Mr. Shin, asking if it belongs to him. However, Mr. Shin remains silent in response. Meanwhile, Mora apologizes to Mr. Shin, explaining that they have mistaken him for someone else. However, doubts about Mr. Shin persist, as they suspect him to be the mysterious figure. The narrative then shifts back in time to shed light on him. He is revealed to be a being who is half god and half human, his father being a god and his mother a human. He is unique, and both worlds have rejected him. Havoc suspects that Mr. Shin is the demigod being half human and half god. Next, we find Havoc at Soe's clinic, ready to accompany her home. However, on their way, Soe suggests taking Havoc to some interesting places. She decides to take him to an amusement park, where they explore haunted houses and enjoy various thrilling rides, including the swings. The following day, Mr. Shin visits Soe's clinic and confides in her, Expressing his need for therapy, he opens up about his past, revealing that he never knew his mother and was treated like a monster by his father, who eventually cast him out of the house. He recounts how he was never wanted as a child. In truth, Mr. Shin's visit to the clinic is motivated by his desire to ascertain whether Soe is aware of his true identity. By sharing his story, he learns that Soe is unaware of his past. As he exits the clinic, a low deity is observed surveilling him and reporting back to Biriam. Subsequently, Biriam attempts to endanger Mr. Shin's life to test whether he possesses powers. However, Mora intervenes, preventing Biriam from carrying out this action. In doing so, she actually protects Biriam because harming a human in the human world would prohibit a god's entry into the realm of the gods. The next day, while Mr. Shin is in his garden, Havoc arrives. He is convinced that Mr. Shin is half god. However, Havoc's purpose in visiting Mr. Shin is to inquire about the symbol on his chest, which actually belongs to another god named Judong. Judong possesses the third sacred stone that Havoc requires. Due to Judong being inaccessible, Havoc questions Mr. Shin about the symbol, wondering if Mr. Shin has any involvement in Judong's disappearance or demise. Mr. Shin remains silent in response. Mora intervenes once again, preventing any potential argument from escalating into a fight. The following day, while Soe is examining the hidden map within her pen, Havoc notices his map of sacred stones on it. He swiftly moves towards her and retrieves the pen from her. It is then that he recalls the night when he descended from the sky, and Soe was holding the pen up towards the heavens. Somehow, the map of Havoc's sacred stones became concealed within her pen. Now that Havoc has found the map and located the sacred stones of Mora and Biriam, only Judong's sacred stone remains behind. Additionally, his time for returning home draws nearer with each passing day. Meanwhile, the emotional bond between Havoc and Soe continues to deepen, and they express their love for each other. However, they are aware of the inherent barriers between them, being from different worlds, and realize they may never be destined to be together. The next day, Mr. Shin is seen sitting among some flower plants. As he attempts to touch the flowers, they wither and die. Shia observes this from a distance, astonished by Mr. Shin's ability. During their interaction, she guesses that Mr. Shin possesses magic and uses it to affect the flowers. Suddenly, Mr. Shin hugs her from behind and performs an action that suppresses her childish behavior, leaving her noticeably subdued. After Jaya leaves, we see Jujalin with Mr. Shin, who has been mentoring him for centuries. Jujalin has been guiding Mr. Shin since the arrival of that demigod on Earth. Meanwhile, Havoc and Soe are enjoying romantic moments together, engaging in activities such as cleaning the house, sharing smiles, dining together, and going for walks. Jujalin informs Mr. Shin that Soe is a divine servant and should be aligned with him, as Shin is half human and Soe belongs to the human world. Later, Mr. Shin learns that the land Soe sold to him, which she now seeks back, is actually a sacred site containing the Divine Gate, a portal between the human and divine worlds. Havoc now wants to get the land back from Mr. Shin. Also, Biriam expresses his frustration to Havoc for allowing Soe to sell the land initially. Biriam thinks that Mr. Shin will make that land into a resort, and if the area becomes frequented by visitors, it will be challenging to maintain its function as a divine gate. At night, Soe meets Mr. Shin again to discuss reclaiming the land. However, Mr. Shin makes promises, leading her to believe that he will eventually return the land to her. Havoc stands outside, observing Mr. Shin and Soe. When Mr. Shin approaches him, he bluntly states that he has no interest in Havoc or his world. His sole focus is on winning Soe's heart at any cost. Later, Soe calls Havoc and asks to meet him. However, Havoc displays cold behavior towards her. Reluctantly, he agrees to meet her at the place where they first encountered each other. Havoc tells Soe that they are not meant for each other and advises against taking false emotions seriously. With those words, he begins to walk away. However, Soe breaks down in tears, expressing her disappointment and feeling like a failure after meeting a god. Her words strike a chord in Havoc's heart. Moved by her vulnerability, Havoc returns to her, pulls her to hug her, and kisses her passionately. The following day, Soe visits Mr. Shin to discuss the land issue. Mr. Shin agrees to return her land and proposes a plan to waive the deal cancellation fees. He suggests that Soe can provide checkups for him and his workers, aiming to impress her. Although Mr. Shin intends to win Soei's favor, she is relieved that her clinic will benefit from the arrangement. Upon returning home, Soei finds Havoc waiting for her in the street. They both acknowledge their imminent separation and decide to part on good terms. Soei suggests having a farewell treat before Havoc's departure. However, Havoc admits that he has no money for it. Soei proposes that he should earn some money for the treat. On the other side, two low deities attack Mr. Shin with their powers on Biriam's orders, causing him severe injuries and bleeding. Enraged, Mr. Shin attempts to retaliate, but Jujalan intervenes, preventing him from acting violently. Despite the severity of his wounds, Mr. Shin's injuries heal rapidly. He receives a call from Biriam, who takes responsibility for the attack. Furious, Mr. Shin rushes towards Biriam for revenge, but Jujalan stops him again, urging him to refrain from violence and teaching him the value of being a good person. Meanwhile, Havoc works part-time jobs to earn money. With his money, he purchases a set of cups as a gift for Soei. He invites Soei to meet him at a cafeteria, where he presents her with the gift and proudly shares that he worked 2 part-time jobs that day. Soei expresses happiness upon receiving the gift from Havoc. In the night, Mr. Shin remains deeply disturbed by Biriam's attack and seeks solace in alcohol at a bar. Despite his desire to avoid trouble, he finds himself harassed by other gods. When Soei calls to remind him of their appointment, Shin dismisses the call, claiming to be busy. However, as the night progresses, he becomes increasingly intoxicated and eventually arrives at the clinic for his appointment. Upon entering the clinic, Soei notices Shin's high fever and quickly attends to him, using cold water-soaked clothes to lower his temperature. As she moves to unbutton his shirt to administer treatment better, Shin suddenly rises and appears to overpower her. He seems to attack Soei, driven by the belief that someone is checking the symbol on his chest. In the midst of this tense moment, Havoc arrives at the scene. Upon seeing Mr. Shin bending over Soei, assumes they are in a romantic situation and impulsively punches Mr. Shin without inquiring about the actual circumstances. He then turns to Soei, demanding an explanation. However, Soei is enraged by his childish behavior and refuses to clarify the situation. Later, Havoc finds himself drowning his sorrows in a bar with Biriam. In his intoxicated state, he confesses his love for Soei and feels betrayed by her actions. Biriam, seizing the opportunity, records Havoc's vulnerable state. Havoc also encounters some thugs on the street, with Biriam capturing the incident on camera before intervening to save Havoc. Eventually, Biriam drops off Havoc at Soei's house, leaving him in her care. Biriam goes back to Mora and shows her the video of Havoc under the effect of alcohol and fighting with goons. The next day, Havoc asks Soei to tell him one wish to be fulfilled. Soei tells him a lot of wishes which are related basically to becoming richer, but Havoc asks him to tell the real desire, and he knows that she doesn't wish to become rich deep inside. Then they spend some quality time with each other. They go grocery shopping and then prepare food together. On the other side, when Biriam is not present, Mora checks his phone. She sees another video of Havoc under the influence of alcohol. He confesses that he loves Soei in that video. This makes Mora very angry. She quickly drives her car to Soei's house and takes Soei with her. Mora tells Soei the story of how Soei's family became divine servants. Centuries ago, Havoc fell in love with a girl named Nak-Bin, who was going to be sacrificed by humans. She was also a human. She betrayed Havoc in exchange for eternal life, causing a curse on Havoc, but the queen heard the matter and decided to kill her. She removed the curse on Havoc by shedding the blood of Nak-Bin, and also was going to kill her brother and nephew for her sins. But her brother apologized and swore to be the divine servants for their generations if they were forgiven. Mora tells this story and requests Soei not to hold Havoc back. She asks her to make Havoc back somehow so that history can't be repeated. When Soei returns to home, she behaves casually as if nothing has happened. She says to Havoc that he didn't do anything when Nak-Bin was being killed. Even though he loved her, she asks Havoc coldly to move out of her house. But she is doing all this on the ask of Mora. Deep inside, she is hurting herself a lot. In the morning, Havoc gets ready and asks Namsuri to prepare for leaving home. They have breakfast with Soei, return their mobile phones, and bid farewell to her. After that, they leave her house. Soei is very upset and sad for them. Havoc and Namsuri go to the Divine Gate and leave. Then, we saw Mr. Shin having a session at the Soei clinic. After the session, they both go to a restaurant for dinner. There, Shin offers her his friendship. Mora and Biriam also reach there, and see Shin and Soe together there. Biriam is very angry at the scene, but Mora stops him from doing anything. After dinner, Soe and Shin are walking on the road when Soe sees a stuffed toy being sold. It remembers her the memory of Havoc. Shin sees that Soe is interested in the toy, so he buys it for her. After reaching home, she keeps the toy in front of her and enjoys a coffee in the cup that Havoc brought for her. She reads the book that Havoc read during his last days of stay there. She is missing Havoc a lot. The next morning, she feels sad and exhausted. Then she remembers Havoc's memories, which make her strong and resolute. On the other side, Mora reaches Shin and asks her to take good care of Soe. She actually wants Soe to forget Havoc, so she asks Shin to get close to Soe and make her his. The next day, the landowners came to the clinic to empty the place of the clinic for not paying the rent. Soe tries to tell them that she will pay the deposit more than the past ones, but they don't listen to her. Meanwhile, Soe's patient, Mr. Ma, reaches there and starts the fight with landowners. As a result, Mr. Ma and Sang-yu end up in jail. We see Soe trying to convince a police officer for the bail of her patient and assistant, but she has to get help from Shin in this matter. After the release of Mr. Ma and Sang-yu, Shin offers her to drive her home, but she insists on going on herself, so he lets her go. Shin follows her to make sure that she reaches home safely. Meanwhile, he calls her and asks her if he should buy the whole building of her clinic to get her out of this trouble. As Soe arrives at the street of her home, she is taken aback by a surprising sight. She is so shocked that she doesn't respond to Mr. Shin's question, and her phone slips from her grasp. To her amazement, she sees Havoc standing there, waiting for her. Overwhelmed with emotion, Soe rushes towards him and embraces him tightly, tears streaming down her face. Havoc retrieves Soe's phone and leads her inside their home, while Mr. Shin watches them from behind the wall. The next morning, Namsuri informs Soe that they have returned for another mission, to uncover the purpose of hiding the sacred stones in the human world. When Soe questions Havoc about this, he embraces her from behind and reveals that he has returned for her. In the world of gods, Havoc came to know that Soe missed him, prompting him to come back to bid her a proper farewell this time. In the morning, Soe requests Havoc to make her wealthy this time, believing they might possess some magical wand to fulfill her wish. However, Havoc admits that he still lacks his powers. He has returned without his abilities, as instructed by the highest priest, to fulfill their mission. Nonetheless, he is excited about one thing. He and Namsuri have managed to obtain their documents. Havoc proudly displays his license card, allowing him to drive legally, while Namsuri presents his identity card, enabling him to seek employment in the human world. Meanwhile, Jujalan approaches Mr. Shin, who appears depressed and seeks advice. Jujalan encourages Mr. Shin to reveal his true self to Soe as a means to win her affection. He suggests that if Mr. Shin still fails to impress her after telling her about his true self, it may indicate that they are not meant for each other. The following day, Jujalan encounters Havoc and Namsuri together in the park. He attempts to kiss Havoc to lift the curse inflicted upon him due to their last kiss. However, Havoc declines, causing an awkward situation, especially with Soe present. Jujalan realizes that Havoc is still devoid of his powers, and informs Mr. Shin of this development, suggesting that Mr. Shin exploit this weakness to win Soe's affections. Meanwhile, Mora arrives at the scene, prompting Jujalan to hastily depart. Mora offers her support to Mr. Shin in his pursuit of Soe, even suggesting that he should take her by force if Havoc comes his way. As Mora and Mr. Shin converse, Biriam arrives, and asks Mora to go with him. As she departs with Biriam, she stumbles, but Mr. Shin intervenes to prevent her from falling. Biriam reacts aggressively, punching Mr. Shin because he touched Mora. Then Biriam takes Mora with him. Soe arranges to meet Mr. Shin the next day, but Biriam interrupts their encounter. He warns Mr. Shin to stay away from Soe, and insists that Soe should avoid meeting anyone without knowing their true identity. Biriam forcibly pulls Soe towards himself, prompting Mr. Shin to intervene. However, Biriam quickly seizes Mr. Shin and teleports them both to an abandoned location. Biriam's assistant, Jugyeon, arrives and contacts Mora to inform her of the situation. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Soe calls Havoc to inform him that Biriam has taken Mr. Shin somewhere. In the abandoned location, Biriam and Mr. Shin engage in a confrontation. Despite Mr. Shin's attempts to avoid conflict, Biriam seems driven by an old revenge. Biriam employs his powers against Mr. Shin, But when Mr. Shin retaliates by using his powers, Jugyeon intervenes, sustaining severe injuries in the process. Havoc and Mora were sitting together when they heard about the confrontation between Biriam and Shin, so they both come to that abandoned place by the powers of Mora. They see Jugyeon on the ground and Biriam fighting with Shin. Havoc stops them from fighting. Biriam goes from that place, and Havoc takes Jugyeon to Mora's house. Havoc goes back to Soe's house, and they both have an argument about Shin there. The next day, Havoc goes to meet Biriam. There, we find out that Biriam has more anger against Shin because he killed Biriam's assistant back when Shin was a boy. The scene shifts to Soe, who is bringing some groceries back to her home at night. Then Jujialian comes from behind her and kidnaps her. Havoc comes out of the house and sees that vegetables are spread on the street, and Soe's phone is also on the road. So, something bad has happened with Soe. Biriam has taken Soe to Shin, whose condition is terrible. He is feeling very depressed and hateful about himself. He needs therapy, especially from Soe. Soe calls Havoc and tells him that she is safe and will be home back soon. She gives therapy to Shin and motivates him to focus on his good deeds instead of bad ones. Meanwhile, Havoc comes there and takes her back with him. The next day, when Havoc comes to the clinic of Soe, Shin is already present there waiting for Soe. They have an argument there. Shin believes that he is a perfect fit for Soe because he is financially in a good position, and also when Havoc goes out from the human world, Shin will be available for her. Meanwhile, Soe reaches there, but Havoc doesn't let Shin to meet with Soe. He gives the keys to the clinic so that
Nandun
Shin
ako sa
can
channel
stay there,
mo,
and he
yung
takes
pangalawa
Soe
kong
with
channel.
him. They both go on a drive to a distant place to watch a sunset there. They both open
Pangalawa
their
kong
hearts
channel
to each
nandun
other
din
sitting
sa'yo.
there. Soe remembers a memory of that place when she came there with her family. At that time, her father was worried about the kids back at home, and her mom was mad at him because of his anxiousness for those kids while not giving proper time to his family. Meanwhile, Havoc is worried about the future of Soe without him in it, but Soe asks him to focus on today rather than tomorrow. The following day, when Soe wakes up, she sees Havoc, who is cooking breakfast for her. Meanwhile, Mr. Shin has come there to return the keys of the clinic of Soe. Havoc invites him to the breakfast, which Shin accepts. At the table, Havoc tells him that he made breakfast for Soe. Also, Soe and Havoc live together, and Soe is very shy seeing him when he takes a warm bath naked. Havoc tells him how he serves Soe day and night. He wants to show the impression that he can do everything for Soe, but then Shin says to Soe that he is the new landlord of her building who has lowered the rent. At this, Soe thanks him a lot and gets very excited. As a counter-argument, Havoc says he is the king of all the gods. Then, Shin reminds Soe that she has an agreement to work in his garden and pay the fees for the cancellation of their deal. But Havoc also comes with her to Shin's garden and does the work of Soe. There, Shin tells Soe that he has heard a lot about Havoc when he was young. He explains that Havoc possesses all the powers that individual gods possess, except for the ability to revive the dead, and also a power that is only unique to Mr. Shin. But still, he is not intimidated by Shin. Despite their differences, Mr. Shin converses calmly with Havoc, indicating that their grievances may be on the path to resolution. Then, Soe comes to give Havoc water when he is working, but Havoc spills the water pot all over his head, making a very romantic scene. Shin is standing behind them, watching their love for each other. At night, during the dinner, Havoc and Soe talk about leaving Havoc soon. It can be tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But in front of Havoc, Soe pretends to be strong and says that she can live the rest of her life with good memories of Havoc. But when she is alone, she weeps a lot by thinking about him leaving her. In the morning, when Soe goes to wake Havoc up, they decide to spend the rest of the days fully with each other so there will be no regrets after that. They both go to a sketch artist and make themselves a pencil sketch of theirs. Soe wears the bride's dress for the sketch. She looks so beautiful that Havoc can't even turn his eyes away from her. They hang the sketch in their home on the wall. That night, Judong comes back and wants to ask Soe about where she was the night when her dad left their family. Before she can answer, Havoc pulls him aside and asks about the matter. Judong tells Havoc that he has been searching for traces in the past when he was attacked. A man helped him that night reach the hospital, but he might get his tablet, which can render the divine wish of divine servants. Judong thinks that it was Soe's father who took that tablet and maybe wished that he could reach his daughter, because at that time, he has heard about the death of his wife and is looking back for her daughter. Now, Havoc knows that on that night, Soe was on the bridge and going to jump in the river, so they both go to the river, and suspect that Soe's father is still in there with his body intact because of the tablet with him. Havoc jumps in to confirm their theory, which turns out to be true. Havoc goes back and tells Soe that he has found her dad. Also, he tells her the story of that night when her father found a tablet from a god and wished to be with her daughter. Then, he landed on the bridge from which Soe was going to jump. So, he also jumped himself into the river and saved her from drowning, but he was strangled in water before her. Hearing this, Soe weeps a lot. She confirms that her father didn't know how to swim. She wants to go in the water to take him out, but Havoc stops her from doing this. In the morning, Havoc is with Soe, who is still struggling with the trauma of her father's death. Mora, Biriam, and Judong come to meet Havoc. They want him to return to Divine Realm to ascend to the throne, but he doesn't want to go. He wants to use his only try to use his powers to extract Soe's father out of the river, but all the gods defy him from doing this. They warn him that by doing this, he will not be able to go back to the Divine Realm, and this way, he will perish. But Havoc is still stubborn in his thoughts. He can't leave Soe like this without giving her anything, but doing this will also perish all his memories from everyone's mind, including Soe's. Soe hears this, and she becomes mad at Havoc for even thinking of this. She doesn't want to forget his memories. She weeps a lot, but Havoc comforts her by hugging her. After that, Havoc and Soe are standing at the bank of the river. Soe wants to go in to get her father out, but it's too deep, and she can't reach out to such depth as a human. Havoc or every other god can't get him out because of his last wish to meet with his daughter, so Havoc kisses Soe and transfers his powers to her, allowing her to go inside without harm. He uses his only chance of using powers on her, allowing her to get her father out. Meanwhile, other gods also reach there. Mora cries out to stop him from doing this, but Judong asks Mora to let Havoc do what he wants. So, Soe jumps in the water, and Havoc jumps in with her. Soe goes deep inside the water and sees her father there, protected by the magic of the divine tablet. Though he is dead there, his body has been intact for many years deep in the sea due to that tablet. He still has that holy tablet in his pocket. Soe takes her father and swims out. The next day, Soe makes her father's memorial on a tree and promises him to shift the mother's memorial there as well. Havoc is also with her. She tells Havoc that she has planned something for him to get things back to normal. She is considering getting her only wish from the divine tablet, to get Havoc back to his realm. Other gods also reach there and praise Soe for her intelligence. Meanwhile, the highest priest reaches there and tells Soe that she doesn't have to waste her wish on this, as it was according to the plan to save a human in the human world. That was the reason why sacred stones were hidden in the human world. Havoc found out the true meaning of being a god by saving a human and even giving out his powers for this cause. So, he has completed his mission. He can go back anyway now. So, Soe then has a wish to wish for anything in the world, but Soe wishes to let Havoc be with her for the rest of her life. When she dies, Havoc can go back to his realm. Everyone is amazed at her wish. Havoc is also happy with this wish. He hugs her and asks her to wait for him. He must go to the divine realm to make that wish come true, but he promises to return to her soon. So Havoc leaves for his world with the highest priest. After some days, we see Soe throwing a white flower into the river and imagining jumping into it. But Mora and Biriam reach there and say that Havoc will not come back, as there has been no news from his side until now. Soe seems surprised to hear all this. At night, when she is returning home while talking to her friend Yomi, she reaches her street and sees that Havoc is standing there waiting for her. She becomes emotional and runs to hug him tightly. She asks why he took so long to return to her. So Havoc tells her that it took time to make her wish come true. So, Havoc will now live with Soe for the rest of Soe's life. He still couldn't get his powers along with him, but they were both very happy. The name of Havoc and Soe on the wall, written by a stone, comes as the nameplate of Havoc and Soe on the gate of their house. And with that, our story comes to an end.
boy was surrounded by several Special Forces soldiers. Suddenly, the boy's eyes turned iron gray. The Special Forces soldiers started uncontrollably pointing their guns at themselves. If it weren't for the intervention of people around them, a tragedy would have inevitably occurred. The story begins, and the male protagonist's name is Evan. Evan has had a unique ability since birth. This unique ability allows people he gazes at to experience hallucinations. Whatever Evan wants others to see, they will see. Evan and his father, Pete, often use this ability to steal things to make ends meet. This time, the two of them drove for a long time and arrived at a convenience store to take a few bottles of alcohol. However, their actions took an unexpected turn. Evan was supposed to keep his gaze on the store owner for a while longer. Unexpectedly, several beautiful women walked up behind him. One of the women leaned in and whispered to Evan. Evan instantly lost focus and shifted his gaze away. As a result, the store owner snapped back to reality. She noticed that a few bottles of alcohol were missing. She grabbed a hammer and walked outside to stop Pete, who was about to drive away. The two individuals had a dispute. Evan could only make the woman hallucinate once again, making the store owner feel like she was being shot by a robber. She fell to the ground, struggling. Evan and Pete managed to escape successfully. However, they were unlucky that day. Coincidentally, a police officers passing by helped the store owner up. The police officers informed the store owner that she had been shot. After clarifying the situation, he immediately got into his car and started chasing them. This situation exceeded Pete and Evan's plan. The two of them had no choice but to drive frantically. Along the way, Evan continuously created various hallucinations to evade the police pursuit. The police officers were suddenly disrupted by a hill and quickly turned the steering wheel to avoid it. Eventually, the police car lost control and overturned. They escaped the police pursuit. However, their actions were captured on surveillance cameras along the way. The leader of a secret organization named Levin ordered his subordinates to capture Evan as soon as possible. They belonged to the Department of Institutions. This was an unofficial secret organization. They had been searching for Evan for over 10 years. It was Evan's birthday on this day. Pete prepared a birthday meal for his son to eat. They had been living on an abandoned ship as they dared not stay on land. Today, on his 18th birthday, Evan wanted to go to the arcade and play. Despite Pete's disagreement, Evan was determined to go. The scene shifts. The policeman who was tracking Evan yesterday was eating in a restaurant. He was talking to the restaurant owner about the strange incident that happened yesterday. However, his words were overheard by Ethan, who was sitting next to him and also had special abilities. Now he realized that the person he had been searching for over 10 years had finally appeared. Then he used his mind to manipulate and cause the police officers to have a sudden death. Evening, Levin's subordinates found the abandoned ship where the father and son lived and captured Pete, who was drinking. They interrogated Evan about where he had gone. Pete didn't answer either. It turns out that he had known Levin for a long time. Pete had escaped from the Department of Institutions over 10 years ago. Soon, Levin's team discovered that Evan was playing games at an amusement park 3 kilometers away. Then his subordinates knocked out Pete and took him away. On the other side, Ethan arrived at the arcade. He recognized Evan at a glance. Just then, several of Levin's henchmen walked in. Ethan hid behind a pillar, carefully observing. He came up with a strategy. Ethan took the initiative and attacked. He quickly knocked down one of them. He picked up the walkie-talkie and told Levin that these people, he was waiting here for them to come and capture him. Levin immediately dispatched everyone to the arcade. She was determined not to let anything get close to Evan. Soon the two sides officially fought in the game hall. Evan witnessed this scene. He realized that Ethan's special abilities were even more powerful than his own. At that moment, Ethan stared at Evan. He extended his left palm towards Evan, seemingly inducing hallucinations in him. The next second, Ethan was captured and had a high-tech headgear put on him. At that moment, 2 young people arrived. The beautiful girl, Annie, reminded Evan not to look at Ethan anymore. She asked Evan to follow them and leave quickly. Meanwhile, Ethan fought against those people. Unexpectedly, Ethan's martial arts skills were good, coupled with his special abilities. Levin's subordinates were gradually knocked down. Evan hesitated by Levin's car outside. However, when he saw his unconscious father in the car, he got in. Evan was also put on a headgear. Then Levin ordered the driver to return to headquarters. Ethan walked out of the game hall without seeing any trace of Evan and immediately walked onto the road to create an illusion. The truck driver thought he saw a woman pushing a stroller on the road, so he slammed on the brakes. It blocked the entire road surface. The car behind crashed into the container at the back of the truck. The scene was chaotic for a while. Levin's driver, under Levin's guidance, overcame the influence of the hallucination and drove the car away. Ethan saw them escape and had to think of another way. Levin took Evan and Pete back to headquarters after a conversation between them. Levin gained Evan's initial trust. She made Evan believe that they came to help him. Their ultimate goal was to ensure that the outcome of the presidential election was not disrupted by Ethan, because the candidates who collaborated with Ethan were all bad people. Moreover, once the candidates took office, those politicians would be controlled by Ethan. Ethan came to Evan to help him achieve this goal. He would have Evan create illusions to manipulate the public's votes in favor of Ethan's desired election outcome. If Evan didn't agree, Ethan would undoubtedly kill him. Levine and his group are trying to redirect history to the right direction, to truly return power to the hands of the people. However, Evan expressed no interest in politics. Levin hoped Evan could help them obtain the secret formula in his blood. This formula can create and eliminate special abilities. Evan is not interested in this either. He just wants to meet his father, Pete. Levin had to take Evan to Pete's home. Evan then realized that his father and Levin were acquainted. Levin teased Evan about entering Pete's mind to see what happened in the past. Pete expressed his opposition. He advised Evan not to believe Levin's words. Levin and the others just want to drag Evan for experiments. Pete emphasized once again that Levin's words were all lies. Evan didn't know who to believe. When Levin took out a photo of Evan's mother, she asked Evan to enter Pete's mind to see what really happened in the past. Evan felt it was necessary to uncover the truth. He stared into Pete's eyes and started entering Pete's mind. Images from more than 10 years ago are shown. In a large experimental facility, Peter kidnapped a child. Levin arrived to stop him. Then Pete successfully took the child away. Evan then returned to reality and immediately collapsed on the bed. Evan realized that the child was insane. Pete was not his biological father. Evan felt deeply hurt, realizing he had been deceived by Pete for over a decade. Then Levin and the leader of the organization, Jack, discussed what to do next, because Levin discovered that Evan's blood does not contain the formula. Jack finds out like he warns Levin not to trigger any more of Evan's latent abilities to make him more powerful. Jack tells Levine that he must get rid of Evan once. He is sure that he does not carry the formula. Levin says that even if Evan doesn't have the formula, he can still trigger a third type of superpower within him. This way, Evan can't go and confront other individuals with special abilities. The leader also reminds Levin not to follow the same path as Kaminsky. The next day, Dr. Mo from the organization arrives for work. The security guards let him pass as usual. Annie came to Evan's room and said she would take Evan to escape from this inhumane laboratory. Evan thinks it's a good idea, so he escaped with Annie. They encounter security guards at the entrance. A fight breaks out between them, and is skilled in martial arts. She strikes hard. She decisively takes down the enemies. Evan is stunned watching from the side and takes down over a dozen security guards in one go. Suddenly, Evan felt that he must rescue Peter, because his mind holds many useful memories. Meanwhile, Evan discovers Evan's escape on the surveillance cameras. She immediately triggered the alarm in the experimental base, sealing all exits, and had no choice but to go rescue Pete. The three of them stole a car in the parking lot and fled. On the other side, the doctor entered engaging in a shootout. He saw the three of them escaping the experimental base surveillance cameras. Another screen displayed the video footage of that room. The doctor was actually Ethan. It turns out he created an illusion for himself. In the end, Evan created an illusion to break out of the experimental base. All the guards aimed their guns elsewhere and fired, but someone pressed the button on the road. In the last second, a barrier rose and punctured the car's rear tire. The car didn't run for long before the tire fell off. The car rolled over into the forest. Ethan arrived at the scene quickly. However, Evan continued to create illusions, making him see that there was no trace of them here. In fact, Ethan had already understood in his heart. He didn't expose them and then leave. Afterwards, the three of them took refuge in a motel. The next morning, Evan made breakfast for him. Evan returned to the room. Pete was already drunk. Evan was eager to know what had happened in the past and encouraged him to go and find out. Evan unleashed his special ability after he saw the original memory in Peter's mind. Evan was astonished. He saw his mother playing with him. This scene had appeared multiple times in his memories. Then he went to take a shower. At this time, Ethan caught up. Evan then created an illusion that the room was under renovation. However, Ethan directly pierced through the illusion. They immediately started fighting. While fighting, Ethan told Evan, the organization's people didn't come here because of his interference. They are a group and witnessed everything but did not intervene. After fighting for more than a dozen rounds, Evan was intensely stared at by Ethan. Then Ethan entered Evan's mind and implanted a memory about a Polish scientist named Kaminsky. Evan completely passed out. Ethan left the place. He said they would meet again. Shortly after, Pete woke Evan up. The two of them started arguing. Evan insisted on going to the outskirts of Warsaw, Poland, to find a scientist named Kamiński. Pete disagreed. He knew who Kamiński was. Evan believed that Pete had been deceiving him for over a decade and was a fraud. Pete stated that he did it to protect him. The person who gave birth to him is not his father. The person who raised him is his father. The two of them went their separate ways. Evan and Ann took a train to Warsaw. Their whereabouts were discovered by Levin. They arrived at a villa in the outskirts. This place used to be one of Kamiński's laboratories. Ethan quickly eliminated the spies planted by Levin in the vicinity. Evan and Ann were able to enter safely. In fact, this was the experimental base of the organization from over a decade ago. Evan had stayed in one of the rooms when he was very young. The memory was deeply ingrained in him. By chance, Evan discovered a hidden compartment in the wall. After breaking the wall with a gun, he discovered that it was a secret archive room. Evan finally found out his true identity. He is Kamiński's grandson. His mother, Sasha, is Kamiński's daughter. Kamiński also conducted experiments on her. However, Evan still doesn't know who his biological father is. At that moment, Ethan arrived. Evan was very nervous and advised Evan to calm down and listen to what he had to say. Evan, however, was not calm. Both of them created illusions. They engaged in an illusion battle. Ethan discovered the real Evan. Now Evan was temporarily convinced. Ethan claimed that he was Evan's true father. It turned out that during the Cold War, Kamiński invented a formula that could give people special abilities. Sasha and Ethan were both subjects of the experiment. Later, they fell in love. However, these special abilities couldn't be inherited. Sasha couldn't have children, but somehow Sasha became pregnant and gave birth to Evan. Evan was born with special abilities. Since then, Evan has been in prison here for experiments. After the Cold War ended, the government feels that these people with special abilities have lost their usefulness and are instead a burden. So, the government wanted to kill them one by one. Ethan was the only survivor. Meanwhile, a large group of heavily armed individuals was preparing to enter from outside. Ethan quickly sensed it. He asked Ann to take Evan to his villa in Spain and wait for him. Ethan stayed behind to hold them off. In the end, he even used his abilities, but he was still captured alive by Levine's men. On the other side, and Evan ran to the rooftop and jumped directly. Evan saw the pursuers approaching. He had to overcome his fear and climb down from the rooftop. The two of them escaped like that. Soon, Ethan was brought back to the experimental base. Levin investigated his blood and found that the formula had been diluted. Now, their hope rested solely on Evan. While Ethan was taking a drink of water, there was a hole in his helmet. At that moment, he used his special abilities to control the staff in the monitoring room. It caused the lab to self-destruct. Many members of Levin's team died. The headquarters suffered heavy damage. The core facilities of the experimental base were almost completely destroyed. Evan arrived at the villa in Spain. He met his mother, Sasha. She was barely conscious. He entered his mother's brain and consciousness to find out the truth. Meanwhile, Ethan also broken. Ethan told Evan the formula was implanted in Evan's mind by Kamiński before the government's purge. It's just that this memory is encrypted. That's why Levin couldn't find the formula in the blood. The memory of Sasha playing with Evan is the encrypted memory. Those building blocks are the formula. Now Ethan wants Evan to join forces with him to create more superpowers to destroy those in the agency. Ethan wants to rush in and get the formula. However, he is blocked by an invisible wall. Evan then realizes that his mother doesn't want the formula to be exposed. He listens to his mother's consciousness. Ethan begins to use his strength to hit the invisible wall. Sasha puts all her effort into stopping Ethan from entering. She doesn't want Ethan to achieve his goal. Sasha can't hold on any longer. She took a sober look at the grown-up Evan and then died like this. Evan is in great pain. At this moment, Levin sends special forces to raid the villa. The special forces surround the father and son. Evan uses his unique abilities to manipulate them and make them kill their own teammates. Evan breaks free from the encirclement and reaches the doorway. Just then, Levin appears. She wants Evan to give up his manipulative consciousness. How is that possible? Soon, Evan takes control of Levin, while he's ordering those armed individuals to kneel and prepare for suicide. Levin tells Evan to stop the manipulation. All of this is an illusion created by Ethan. Evan's mother died many years ago. Ethan urges Evan to quickly give the order for them to commit suicide. Levin's handgun is already in her own mouth. At this critical moment, he shouts loudly, and all of this is an illusion created by Ethan. He is manipulating Evan. He urges Evan to enter his mind again and see clearly what happened back then. Ethan throws a handgun and asks Evan to force Pete to commit suicide. Evan refuses. He tells Pete to leave quickly, but Pete continues to persuade Evan. Ethan angrily manipulates Pete's consciousness and makes him shoot himself. Pete's death shocks Evan awake. Evan instantly gives up his control over Lavin and the others. Before dying, Pete asks Evan to enter his mind again and see the truth of what happened back then. It turns out that Sasha, after realizing Pete was a good person, begged them to take Evan away. Sasha wanted them to live a normal life. Evan apologizes to Pete, but in Pete's consciousness, he wrongly blamed Pete. The father and son bid farewell. Evan picks up the handgun from the ground and goes to find Ethan. Son, Evan finds Ethan at the party scene. He has taken him hostage. Evan tries to manipulate Ethan's consciousness, but Ethan's resistance is too strong. Evan still can't control Ethan. Ethan controls all the people at the party. Ethan thinks they're killers and rushes towards them. Evan doesn't want to kill innocent people. He defeats them using only his fists. Finally, Lavin comes over to help Evan out of the situation. Evan approaches Ethan with the gun. Ethan threatens to shoot A if Evan gets any closer. Evan bitterly accuses his biological father of being a heartless creature. Levine tells Evan that Annie does not exist at all. Everything is an illusion. Only Evan can't see Annie. No one else can see her. At this moment, Annie shouts for Evan to escape. Levin asked Evan to recall when Annie appeared. That was the implantation point for Annie. After Evan recalls it, he discovered that the first place it was implanted was in the game arcade. At this time, Evan had an emotional breakdown. His overall condition is not good. He picks up the gun and shoots Ethan. Ethan falls to the ground and dies, but Annie still exists. Annie and Evan embrace each other in the end. So why does Annie still exist? Let's continue to see. Afterwards, Levin takes Evan to pay respects at his mother's grave and was with him all the time. Levin persuades Evan to come to his side. Evan says he only wants to stay in the deserted area. He asks Levin to leave a phone number for him. Evan will call Levin if he changes his mind later. Then Evan left with Evan. Levin communicated Evan's situation with Jack. Levin stated that Evan had completely believed in her. It was only a matter of time before she roped Evan in. Jack said that if she didn't accomplish it by then, Levin would personally kill Evan. That's how the film ends. The editor guesses that the moment Evan shot and killed Ethan, Levin continues to perpetuate Annie's hallucinations. The film does not explain whether Levin is a person with special abilities, but it's not hard to guess. The conversation between Levin and Jack at the end already revealed this implication. She actually continued Annie's delusion and continued to manipulate Evan. The story setting of this movie is indeed wonderful. Repeated manipulation and being manipulated. Let the audience experience endless excitement. The good people you thought of have a dual nature. In fact, they all save the male protagonist for their own benefit, except for foster father Pete and mother Sasha. The characters are complex. The actors also showed their diverse faces. Their acting skills are still good. The male protagonist seems to have control over his own destiny. His love for Eddie is actually a tool used by others to monitor and manipulate him. Is the ending of the film good or bad? I believe the audience has their own answer in their hearts. Alright, this episode of the film ends here. See you in the next episode.
See you in the next episode about this. Sorry, kasalan si Rex.
Sabat sa pwede.
Ha?
Parang may gulang doon yung bahay.
Ayab ka. Sa'in.
Pinsan kasalong yun. Pero nagkumain din ko. Visit na, makabay ako. Tapos ang partner ko sa ko.
Ano naman? Wala naman yan. Wala naman yan. Good naman yan. Basilo siya doon na ano. Aram sad to na kamo.
Oo.
Ito na yung yan.
Aldi unon. So kami dyan magpapagapirmi dati. Ganito ang partner.
Oo. Pero good man kamo. Good man yan kamo.
Pero ito na pala gawa mo. Pagod yan, no? Ka.
Silos niya to. Ay, masilos mo kung break naman. Nasa girlfriend mo naman yun.
Tabungan ang patin doon.
Ayun. Yun lang.
Hindi ko pa kapag.
Yun lang talaga.
Ba't may invitation na?
Noon to pwede bang?
Ha?
Pwede man yan.
May
Pwede
pang
nga.
pang
Abay man lang.
tapos nag-abay ka, tapos dalang nag-experience mo ngayon ka, happy-happy ka.
Minsan kaso pag unabay ka, minsan ka mo
Yung ano?
sacrifice mo na. Kasi yan, pa-choice ma-attend ka o...
Yung nga sa condition sa buhay.
Di ba? Yun.
Sa condition.
Pero kung tutuso, kababaw mo na, kung
Kang rason.
ang rason,
Yung ano?
ibig sabihin, son, kung may tiwala siya sa imo,
Paano? Ito mo na.
di ba?
Pinsan ko man.
Para maabay.
Kaya
Yung
mo
ex
man.
naman.
Dapatin mo ng pinsan ko na. Di ba nagtarang sa ko na maabay ako?
Diri,
Para magkurang mag-invitation na. Paano?
di kasi pagpapaliwanag mo man yan, kay maselos ka pa na dapas ng kababaw man na reason porket nag-abay ko, ano na parang. Ano man yun, parang ano man reason.
Sabi.
Tapos, after guide ng
Di sabi mo sa kanya, mo pag silos, ang ka-ex ko naman yun na maabay.
Mga babae, pag ikaw ang pwede mag-isuwit, pero tama.
What if after guide ng closure na kamo?
Ay, wala ka mo closure? Sagot ka may closure ka mo. Ay, wala. Sagot may closure ka mo. Ay, baka sa'yo pa yun sa dahilan. Wala ka mo closure. Decision mo na yun. Kung susunodin mo siya. Pero magpaliwanag ka lang sa kanya. Lagi ako na po talaga. Amo na. Kliyente. Client. Kamayon ako sa balay. 10, 11, 12. Kung may kliyente ako nila sa balay. Pag wala pang matagda ka naman sa hati.
Sabi lang sila,
Kasi guys, yun man. Agriculture.
di ba nagsin lang daw niya?
Dua ka adlaw mo. Dua ka adlaw lang. Tapos yan lang guro.
Ang nagtatapos ng pwede sa naman talaga.
Ay, matagang.
Pakita.
Ang gani kayo mabakasyon na. Kasi maksa. Ang tarali ka na yun, ano na may June? July, August. August? August. Isa lang. August.
Ano? Kaya nga ni, itong ko sa'yo. Kung ako bukong doon, mano pa ako yan. Bumagyan ako.
Training. Pa-training na. Na-train ako sa TIS. Na-train na naman ako sa bulan. Kaya mag-training na kapon. Para may pagka na 5 days lang. immortal varas, based on what is she?
Their eyes turn red, horns them are real, and nobody knows where they are. After 1,000 years, people have forgotten about the statues. While some view it as a fictional tale, others consider it real. Among those who believes is a photographer. He is climbing the mountain with a couple for their wedding photo shoot. While exploring, the couple stumbles upon the statues of Dol Harabang. Out of curiosity, they touch the statues, causing a liquid to ooze out. Suddenly, the statues shatter, releasing black smoke. The smoke enters the bodies of the couple, transforming them into lust demons. Their eyes turn red, horns sprout from their skin, and they become vicious monsters. The groom attacks the photographer, but he's thwarted by a demon slayer named Van, who uses his powerful dagger to defeat the demon. Elsewhere, two Spanish priests observe blood stains on church monuments. One asks the other to summon Father Johann. Meanwhile, in the same church, Johann conducts an exorcism on a woman. He wears headphones to block out the demon's provocations. He then places a crucifix on the woman and sprinkles holy water on her, trying to expel the demon. After completing the exorcism, Johann meets with the priests, who point out the bloodstains on the monuments. One of the priests explains that long ago, the world faced a grave threat from evil's power. The woman depicted in the monument was humanity's sole hope and protector against this darkness. Tragically, she couldn't fulfill her mission and was slain by a man believed to be a demon. Rumors suggest this man still lives, posing a threat. With the return of the bloodstains, it's clear that the world faces danger once more from evil forces. The woman has been reborn and holds the key to stopping them. The priest reveals that her destiny will bring her back to the island, where she will regain her memories and confront evil. He implores Johann to go to the island and aid the woman in saving the world from crisis. Meanwhile, we're introduced to a woman named Wamiho, who serves as the chairwoman of the Dahan group. She is confident and smart and adeptly handles criticism. However, she faces challenges in her life, notably with her aunt, who owns the Dahan Hotel. She argues with Minho about the ownership of the hotels, but Minho shuts the woman down by stating that most of the hotel shares are owned by her father. She also claims she is the only successor and has every right to do what she wants with her father's hotel. While she and Secretary Khan are en route to an art museum, a car abruptly halts in front of them. The occupants of the other vehicle appear to be thugs, demanding an apology from Secretary Khan for a perceived mistake. When he refuses to comply, they seize him by the neck and compel him to apologize. Unable to tolerate the mistreatment of her secretary, Minho becomes furious. She forcefully pushes the man to the ground while another thug records the entire incident on video. The video went viral, and Miho faced strong criticism and boycotts from the public. This worries the shareholders, making things worse for Miho. She accuses her aunt of the incident, and the aunt appears happy, indicating she's behind the controversy. Anyway, Miho's father orders her to step down from her position and go abroad until the issue settles. Instead of sending her abroad, Mr. Jang suggests she volunteers at a school on Jeju Island for some peace of mind. With no other option, Miho agrees to her father's orders. She and Secretary Kang arrive at Jeju Island. Things start to get strange when Miho feels something as soon as she lands. Meanwhile, a woman named Baekju also senses her presence, indicating that Miho has some sort of close connection to the island. As Miho was finding her car in the parking lot, she witnesses a lust demon in a wedding gown devouring a human. The demon recognizes Miho and begins chasing her, aiming to end her life. Desperate to save herself, Miho hides behind a car, but the demon doesn't seem to back off. By unlocking the vehicle, Miho creates a diversion for the demon, allowing her to escape. However, the the demon manages to spot her. A chase ensues until Miho locks herself up in a truck. Before she can understand what's happening, the demon pierces its arm inside the truck, barely missing Miho. As the demon is about to enter, Demon Slayer Van arrives to save her. A vicious fight erupts between Van and the demon. With his extraordinary powers, Van seems to overpower the demon. Meanwhile, Miho, still in the truck, notices demonic scratches on the roof. To her relief, Van opens the truck, having defeated the demon. Suddenly, Miho feels something again, causing her to pass out. The next thing she knows, she finds herself in a villa, surrounded by Secretary Kong and Mr. Jang. After informing them about the incident, Miho asks if Secretary Kong saw a man in a black suit in the parking lot. However, nobody knows about the guy as they only found Miho unconscious there. The woman Beck Ju, who sensed Miho's presence on the island, speaks to Van, mentioning that the child is here. She asks Van if Miho has recognized him, realizing that Miho has not fully awakened yet. She wonders why Miho arrived on the island if it isn't for her past. A flashback takes us back to ancient Jeju Island. Van was a little kid when his village was attacked by lust demons. He was the only child who survived the massacre. At that time, Monk Jongryun decided to use Van as one of his subjects. Every red moon, he would attempt to turn humans into demon slayers by injecting them with demon blood. However, he couldn't succeed in any of his experiments. Nevertheless, he didn't give up. During the next red moon, he took Van and the other children to a cave where they had captured a lust demon. The old man stabbed the demon, collected its blood, and sliced open the backs of the children to pour the blood into them. Of many children, only 2 survived, Van and Gunton. To make them as powerful as the demons, Monk began their tough training. Besides enduring torment from the royal guards, these young half-demons had to undergo rigorous training, including pulling giant rocks. A young girl named Wonjong witnessed venturing to
Yes, that's our first
forced into becoming a demon slayer. Feeling sorry for the boys, she decided to rescue them. She sneaked into the prison and started unlocking the chains restraining the boys. Suddenly, Van was momentarily overtaken by the demon inside him, causing him to attack Wonjong. Despite being attacked, the girl understood Van and helped him escape the prison. The trio fled through the forest, seeking refuge where they could live out their lives. When the leader learned of their escape, he sent his bodyguards after them. In the middle of their journey, Wonjong collapsed on the ground due to a wound on her arm. To aid the person who had tried to save his life, Van returned to the monastery. Though he helped Wonjong, he and Gunton couldn't escape the torture from the monk's guards. The following night, Wonjong visited Van in the prison and informed him that she would undergo training to become even stronger, with the aim of one day returning to help them escape the prison. Back in the present day, Miho visits the school where she will be volunteering. She reads an article revealing that her aunt has taken over her position. Just then, she receives some pictures from her secretary controversy. She instructs Secretary Khan to stop the car. It turns out that Secretary Khan has been collaborating with her aunt to tarnish her reputation. Furthermore, he was the one who informed the thugs about her visit to the Indians on the night. Miho was deeply disappointed in him because she treated him like family. Secretary Khan further wounds Miho, claiming that he was against her. Infuriated, Miho decides to go to the villa alone. Tragedy strikes as Secretary Khan gets attacked by a last demon while Miho was calling Mr. J for her car. She sees Secretary Khan standing in the middle of the road. As she approaches, she's shocked to see that his eyes have turned red, just like the demon she encountered earlier. Panicked, she kicks flees from the scene. However, being a lust demon, Secretary Khan soon catches up to her. As he chokes her, intending to end her life, Van arrives at the scene with his magical dagger. He moves so swiftly that the demon doesn't even notice he's lost his arm. Creating a shield around himself, Van makes his way to stop the demon. Just as the demon is about to pierce its sharp arm into Miho, Van intervenes, taking the attack. A fight erupts between the two, with Van showcasing his extraordinary skills against the demon. In the end, he manages to overpower the demon, turning him into stone after advising Miho to stay put.
Kaso hindi gigil si Tubig.
Soon after, Mr. Jang
Ang kuting
approaches
bagus ating ngirum sini ni ano,
Lelis,
ya.
having the
Mga
trigger
kuting dini.
Miho tries to explain that
Ay,
she was
ikaw pa
attacked by a
Andiyan na, kanto na. Ah, hoy.
more distressed. Meanwhile, Mr. Jang
Kan Mama
represents
AJ.
his villa. It turns out to be none other than the exorcist Johan. It is revealed that Miho was indeed the savior destined to protect the world from lust demons. Mr. Jang was also a priest, knew about Miho's identity,
Hoy.
which likely prompted him to advise her to come to the island. Now, Johan will not only protect Miho, but also help awaken her. Somewhere on the island, a similar dagger that Van owns and slashes his palm. He then places his bloody hand on a statue, releasing a lust demon. Desperate to leave the island, Miho heads to the airport, unaware that evil spirits are following her everywhere.
Salamat. Ilang minutes na na?
The recently released
Babalik
lust
ako.
demon, summoned by the
Mag-charge na ako,
mysterious
lubat na
person,
ako.
possessed as a security guard at the airport.
10 minutes na.
When Miho tries to purchase a ticket, the receptionist tells her to wait, stating that she has orders from above. A possessed security guard approaches Miho, ready to end her life. Another security guard tries to taser him.
Jadi mana
The
yang
lust
ilaw?
demon remains unaffected. Seizing the opportunity, Miho escapes from the scene with the demon in pursuit. She steals a car, but before she can start it, the demon catches her. However, Miho kicks him in the face and finally manages to start the vehicle. Before Miho can escape, the lust demon leaps off the bridge and onto the car. Miho tries to shake off the monster by using the brakes and suddenly speeding
Kana
up.
din
But
eh.
all her efforts are futile. The demon is on the verge of infiltrating the vehicle when Miho manages to apply the brakes, crushing the demon underneath the car. However, to her shock, the monster still clings to the car. Breaking through the window, it prepares to attack Miho. Things worsen when the car collides with a bollard, causing it to crash. Miraculously, Miho survives and seeks refuge in an abandoned building. But the demon soon finds her. Just as the demon is about to attack, a mysterious force kicks it away from her. This force turns out to be Van, who has used his magical dagger to defeat the demon. Realizing that Van is her only hope against these demon attacks, Miho implores him to protect her. A fight breaks out between the demon and Van. The lust demon stabs Van in the stomach, but it appears that Van isn't affected by the attack. He retaliates, utilizing his extraordinary powers to kick the monster multiple times. Then, he grabs a chain and wraps it around the demon's neck, pushing it away before pulling it towards him to deliver one final stab. After defeating the lust demon, Van prepares to leave but is stopped by Miho. She is filled with questions and seeks answers. When she inquires about the creatures, Van reveals that the monsters she encountered are lust demons who prey on humans and live among them indefinitely in human forms. He explains that these demons are abundant and can emerge from anywhere. When Miho asks why they are after her, Van explains that it is her destiny that attracts them. He further informs her that the monsters will pursue her wherever she goes, and there is no escaping them, emphasizing that she must confront them. Van departs from the forest, leaving Miho in profound shock. Later that night, while Miho is in her room, she hears something outside. As she looks out the window, Van swiftly enters the room. It turns out that another demon had attempted to reach Miho, but Van intervened, turning it into
Mag-ano ka
stone before
doon?
it could reach her.
Anong kakaon mo dyan? May
Miho
plastic na
panics
kakaon?
and implores Van to become
plastic?
a personal bodyguard.
Ha?
Since Van has
Kakaon
never
yung
taken on
plastic?
such a role before,
May karat ni.
still frightened by the situation, Miho persuades Van to stay
Kakaon
with
yung
her.
plastic baka matay.
He agrees to protect her from the demons. As Miho falls asleep, Van notices a small
Ay, ayaw naman sila.
Van's lust demon took control of his body, causing him
Sidar na pala ni.
The following day, Miho wakes up to find that Van has signed a contract.
Pag ano lang ka, magandang
Miho introduces Mr.
Ang
Jang
sila
to
niya.
Van, insisting he appears to lack
Wala si
sleep.
Bang.
Van will accompany Miho to Houston.
Ano nila? Pangluto?
Miho will have to drive the vehicle. Much to her frustration,
Baka
she
may
attempts to
kabalang
engage in conversation with Van,
Bawal yan,
but she
mga guys.
receives no response to her questions. On Miho's first day as a teacher at the school, the students keep prying into her personal life, which makes her really angry. While Miho is taking attendance, one student, Young-ji, boldly leaves the classroom. Young-ji
Ano yan?
happens to be
Ano?
Baekju's
Pali
granddaughter,
sa effort
and she
sa'yo?
skips school to visit her best friend,
Pinakalma?
Surayan. The girl has been continuously abused by her boyfriend, who has
Tigtaon
private
ni
pictures of her.
Bebe.
He threatens to expose her if she doesn't comply with his demands. The boy is keeping an eye on Sue Ryan to such an extent that he knows who visits her
Kami
house.
sinunlag.
Afraid of the
Ha?
boy's warnings, Sue
Sinunlag
Ryan
ko
takes her best friend out of the room, worried about her friend.
Gusto ko naman sanlag ha.
Reaches out to Miho for help.
Natin kung hindi ko naman sinunlag. Gusto ko naman sinunlag.
Young she believes Miho can use her influential position
Maaram,
to meet
maaram na magtaran sa dati.
police instead.
Dati, fight na sa loob na.
Ryan considers ending her life, but finds herself unable to. Then, she remembers how young she once told her about Joe, the divine spirit of the forest. In times of desperation, when the weak and powerless had no one else,
Madali walang tinola, di ba?
sought out the spirit of Joe and prayed.
Ano?
They believed that by
Isaw mo lang yun, di ba? Tapos, luya, no? Down sili. May down sili na dyan sa likod, oh. Ay, so yung mangga?
Mas ano
May sili ba dito?
gusto ko ako sa mga ano ng baga.
Hindi mo kukuha. Kung yung mga balik pa naman.
Tapos, na-end pa yung ano mo.
Gusto ko iba naman magkuha.
Mr. Chang introduces Johan to Miho as his nephew, and the two engage in
First time,
conversation.
action time mo
While
naman.
under the influence of alcohol, Miho
Alaog na ako dyan, hanggang doon sa ano.
frustration towards him. To her surprise, Ben fulfills his promise and is there to support her. Seeing Ben, Johan asks Mr.
Dapat talaga gabi na dyan.
Upon discovering
Hindi na
that
ano.
it's the same man who killed
Kasi pag
Joe,
eruption niya,
Johan becomes quite
gabi na
concerned.
talaga
He
magkala.
approaches Ben and
Ito pa,
makes him feel
mag-ano
guilty
lang
for
ako.
his actions
Bunga sa
towards
doong babae,
one
kinuha sa
Joe.
mga
Viewing
ito.
him as a demon and doubting his
Kasakto baga, di ba ba? Takasal ni mga
Johan decides to
talaga ano.
accompany Miho to the
Bata
school.
dito, kahit mga lalaki.
Ben
O ba
instructs
sa amin
Mga bata pa na babae.
Sensing something
Yung dalaga na?
he heads into the forest,
Oh.
which frustrates Miho even more. She feels like she should be the one in control, but their roles are reversed.
Aking ganito
When
ka ng
Miho
lalaki.
reaches the school, Young-Chi suddenly steps in front of her car to get her
Dili na lagi.
attention.
Maganganib dati luto na. Kuha na niyo kay nag-harvest ng duwa.
Johan, being a priest, decides to check on Sue Ryan. After arriving at Sue Ryan's house, Miho tells Young-Chi to go home. Meanwhile, Ben conducts his own investigation and discovers that the tree where Sue Ryan prayed is vanished
Coco,
along with its roots.
mag-charge lang ako ha, Pilipina. Thank you. Mabalik ako mamaya. Mag-live ulit ako mamaya.
On the other hand,
Mag-charge lang ako, lobat ng
Johan arrives at
cellphone
the
ko.
girl's room and finds her laughing maniacally. It's clear that she's possessed by a demonic spirit. Johan quickly
Mag-charge
takes
lang
out his
ako.
exorcism tools, like a crucifix
Live ulit
and
ako,
holy
ma'am.
water, as he
Thank
places
you
the
so
crucifix
much.
on Sue Ryan's chest.